Hey, you guys.
Hey everyone.
All right. We got Ben, Dana, April, Bailey, and Cheyenne. All right.
The
So,
the faithful five.
yes. So tonight we are talking about. Oh, and excuse how I look. As y'all know, we were traveling today. I've been up since 5 o'clock y'all's time, so I look lovely. It's fine. Nobody cares. Um. So we're talking about kids, raising kids, which I think is one of the most important things we do in our lives. Um, so first, most of you guys know we have Bailey, who's 19, and then we have Gavin, who is 16. And I started staying home full time whenever they were. We literally talked about this earlier. They were how old were they? 5 and 7.
5 and 7.
Yeah. Gavin was 5, Bailey was 7. And before that, I worked part time for a while. I worked full time for a little while, then I worked part time for a little while. But most of their lives, I stayed home. The first little bit of their lives, I worked nights for the most part. So that was difficult. Obviously, when they were toddlers, I worked nights. That was hard. Uh, but we made it, obviously. For a year and a half, I worked days, and that was terrible because, well, Gavin went to preschool, Bailey was in school, but for a little while, Gavin was not in school, and Slade's mom and his sister kept Gavin during the day. Anyway, it was hard for me because I had to depend on other people to like pick him up from school, and Slade picked Bailey up from school. Anyway, it was hard. That was hard to me to have to depend on so many people to do so many things. So, anyway, so I started staying home with them. They were 5 and 7. And, that's the most rewarding job I've ever done. Even though it's super hard sometimes, it is rewarding. So, there's different stages in parenting. You have their infants, and infants, they totally depend on you. They depend on you to feed them, they depend on you to change their diaper, they depend on you to put them to sleep, they depend on you for literally
They depend on you to live.
everything. Yes, every single thing. And then they get to toddlers. And when they're infants, you don't have to get on to them, obviously. They're just babies, and they just sleep and eat and cry and cry some more if they're Gavin. Bailey did not cry nearly as much as her brother did. So then it got to, the toddler stage. This is when we started disciplining our children. I mean, we weren't like beating them or anything, but
wear them out.
But we started disciplining them when they were toddlers. Slate and I were talking earlier, and I've always had a ton of breakable things in the house. And when our kids were little, they wouldn't mess with the stuff. Like, because they had learned. Like, if they did, like, I can remember Gavin would go and he would like touch the lamp that was on the side table, and he would go, no, no. Because he knew if he touched that, I was going to tell him no. And they might not be able to totally comprehend what that means, but they know that no means no. I mean, they just know. And I don't know exactly how they know that, but they know I'm not supposed to touch that. So I started disciplining them, when they were little. I wouldn't let them mess with stuff. And I hear people say things like, well, they're just being kids. Okay. But when they go to someone else's home, I don't want them to just be kids and break something that can't be replaced at someone else's house because I didn't do my part at home.
Mm.
Now, will kids break stuff? Obviously. I mean, things have been broken in my house because sometimes kids are not paying attention. They're kids. There's going to be accidents, but it can't be an everyday occurrence. Slade and I had some friends years and years ago, and their kid would come to the house, and I would have to move everything off of the tables so that the child couldn't mess with the stuff. And the kid would leave, and I would go, "This is crazy that I have to literally put everything up." But it's because at home, the kid wasn't taught I can't mess with anything. I can't mess with stuff that's not mine. And so that's what the kid did. He did what he was allowed to do at home.
Yeah, he touched everything. He picked up everything. Light switch on, light switch off, light switch on, light switch off. Like,
And his
get your kid.
yeah.
Get your kid. You're not at home. Like, I don't care what goes on at your house.
Yes.
Crap don't happen at my house.
Yes.
My kids don't do this.
No. And and when we're talking about kids, but I mean, this can be grandkids too. Like, it doesn't have to just be your kids. If I'm the person in charge, no matter whose kids it is or kids they are, I'm going to parent them the way I parent mine.
We run a tight ship around here.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. So anyway, it started things like that. Like, they mess with something, I told them no, and he would be like, no, no, and Bailey would do the same thing. She'd pick something up and she'd go, no, no, and then she'd put it back down immediately because that was a routine. And I think routines with kids are so important. So, it gets on from toddler, they're in their adolescence, they're children, and Terry's big eyes. And that's where it really matters. When they're toddlers, they're toddlers. Like, you can say no, and you make sure. This was something I did with my kids. I made sure they were looking at me in my face. So I wouldn't just be like yelling from another room, no, don't be in there doing whatever. Like, I would go to them. They would have to look me in my face, and I would say, we're not going to do this. And then they would have to repeat back to me what I said. And it probably drove them crazy. But I did that because I think sometimes kids are told, no, don't do that. But maybe they were like, because they were having fun and they were being kids, they didn't hear you. So I think it's unfair at that point to be angry because they were doing kid things when you didn't give clear instruction. You can't get mad at children for being children if you're not going to be clear with them. So I would always say, look at me. And they would look at me, and I would say, do not whatever it was. And I would say, what did I say? And then they would repeat, do not whatever it was. And I would say, okay, now if you do that, either you're getting a spanking or you're going in time, whatever my punishment was, that's what was happening.
Yeah, you have to establish clear expectations.
Yes. And it was very, very clear in the house. And if I said no one day, well, it was going to be no every day after that. I did not. I think a lot of times as parents, we're tired. I get it. And, if there's a day where you might have dropped the ball, there was times I dropped the ball, like maybe I got onto them for turning the light on and off, or they didn't do that, but say that I got onto them for that. And then the next day I wasn't paying attention and they were doing it again, but I was tired. And so I didn't say anything. Okay, well, if I kept that up, what's going to happen is they're not going to take me seriously. Okay, but there was some days where maybe they did it and I was just exhausted and I would be like, oh my goodness. But that can only be like once
In a while.
in a while. It can't be once a week. It can't be like, it has to be once in a while, because if I did that, then I was showing them that I wasn't serious. I was a joke. And, I would say both of my children still have a healthy fear of me. You think that's a fair statement?
Mm-hmm.
One, I know for sure she's on here. Gavin is on here, but he cannot comment. If he could, he'd be blowing the comment section up. But consistency is absolutely essential in setting boundaries. Yes, I agree, Terry. It's, you know, it's so important. So, I had rules. They knew what those rules were. I made sure the rules were clear. They they also knew there was going to be punishment if they broke those rules. And they still know that.
It's consistency and it's follow through
Yes.
with whatever the punishment may be, or whatever the word that you're telling them may be. Like, if you do that again, whatever, you're
Yeah.
getting a spanking. If you do that again, you're getting a spanking. Well, then they do it again.
Well, if you do
And
that one more time.
yeah, if they do it again and they don't get a spanking, well, what's the incentive
Right.
for them to not continue doing it? What's the incentive for them to believe you the next time you say, don't do something?
Yeah.
You have to follow through with
Yeah.
whatever it is, and immediately and every time, consistently.
Yes.
Consistent follow through.
Yeah. So, spankings didn't necessarily work with Gavin. Like, he'd just be like, okay. Which is so crazy. I know now y'all look at him and you're like, gosh, he's so good.
That's exactly right, Jacob.
Empty threats are the worst thing for kids. I agree.
Hey, Mom.
Hello. So, so everybody's always like, Gavin's so good, Gavin's so good. There was a time Gavin was not so good. Gavin was wild. And now he's always been very sweet. But he was rambunctious. But he knew the line. And he didn't too often cross that line. But if he did, I took care of it. Spanking did not work necessarily for him. You had to take things away from him, and he hated being stuck on the wall. So I would put him, he had to sit facing the wall, nose to the wall, and Dana, he was not. I would put him face to the wall, nose on the wall, and if he turned around or made a noise, as in crying, I added a minute every time. Well, you got to think, when somebody's little, a minute's a long time. We started out with 3 minutes, and every time he wanted to turn around and tell me what he was going to do or not going to do or wah, we got another minute. Eventually, he got tired of doing that. So he decided, maybe I should just do what I'm supposed to, because Mom's not letting up. There was one time we hit 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I had to stand there for 15 minutes. And you have to think, he was probably 3, so his sister was 5. And I remember specifically that day she was not at school. Because she was running around the living room, and he wanted to turn around so bad because his sister was running around doing whatever she wanted to. The day he got 15 minutes, that was the day that broke him, because his sister did not care that he was over there on the wall crying and acting the fool. She did not care. She was running around having her the best time. And it was hard. It was hard. As a mom, the easier thing for me to do would have been like, just get off the wall and go play with your sister. That would have been the easy thing.
Yeah.
But if I would have done that, he would have learned nothing. So we did this. And maybe I get that persistency from my mother. My kids, the kids Mimi, when I was growing up, I got in trouble one time and she put me on 9 months of restriction. I almost said probation, not probation. 9 months of restriction. It started out, I only had a month. But every time I did something, she added. By the end of it, I had 9 months. I had no radio, no door, and no TV in my room.
Took the door off the hinges.
Yeah, she didn't play. So maybe I got it honest. My parents ran a really tight ship too, as well as my grandmother. She ran one as well. I remember one time I broke some stuff in her house because I was running around, and boy, she let me have it. My granddaddy let her have it too, but that's beside the point. I never broke anything again, though. I learned that day I needed to sit down and calm down. But, they were always consistent. If I did something, my parents didn't just be like, oh, I forgot she was on restriction. No, it was 9 months. I couldn't talk on the phone. I couldn't do anything. They took everything from me. 9 months. That's crazy.
I bet she deserved every day of it.
Oh, I did. I deserved every day of it. I talked back to Mama a few times. I did several things, and I deserved every moment of the restriction I got. But look, then I turned around and I used it. Oh, and my parents are like, "Don't be so hard on those kids." I'm thinking, are you serious? Don't be so hard on them. You put me on 9 months restriction. Are you kidding me? Anyway. And I think, I know that when they're from about 4 until they're about 12, those are the most important years. Because that really is going to determine what kind of teenagers you're going to have. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, as Gavin got older, standing him against the wall, that wasn't going to work. So, I would take the video games, I would take the TV, YouTube, whatever. I'd take it. And same thing with Bailey. I'd take her phone. I'd take TV. And Bailey also was not one that had that, but it wasn't that spankings didn't work with Bailey. She just really didn't need them. Like, being disappointed in her or Gavin was enough. But I think that came with relationship, a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I could look at Bailey right and make her cry.
Still.
Yeah, like, and the same with my dad. My dad he can just look at me right. And
April said they did early bedtimes and her kids hated that.
Yeah, my dad can look at me just right, and I can see the disappointment or whatever. It made me cry. Whereas my mom, not so much.
Yeah,
She holler at me and all that, and she'd get her point across.
Yeah.
She'd get her point across. And I can only ever remember getting 2 spankings, one from my dad, one from my mom.
That's because you're the baby.
I was the baby. But, I mean, I'm sure she could tell you in the comments. It's because it wasn't required. Ain't that right, Mama?
Cheyenne says she's taking all the notes. I could see that.
No, I was bad.
I mean, sometimes.
I was bad. I was
Were
bad.
You?
Yeah.
So it was because you were the baby.
Yeah, it's because I was the baby. I was not. I was a selfish kid. And, turned into a selfish adult.
Yeah, not anymore though. Much better.
Praise be to God.
Yeah. So, anyway, consistency was the key with the kids. Just be consistent. And whatever the punishment is, carry it out. And it's hard sometimes. Man, one of my least favorite punishments was no TV. Because when you needed 5 minutes, you couldn't do anything with them.
Yeah, no TV went for
everyone.
Whoever was with them also.
Yeah. So that was rough. And keep a routine, especially if you stay home. It's, you know, keep.
That's exactly right, Terry.
Yeah. He said, I have always said and still believe kids are starved for discipline. I agree with that, Terry. So I decided we would start reading the comments because when people go back and watch this, they can't see it.
Yeah.
And so I don't want them to think we're just like up here talking to ourselves like weirdos.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh, I remember. So I was saying consistency, and then I was saying carry out the punishment. And routine is so important. So when they were little, we had the same routine. So once I started staying home with them, so they were 5 and 7. So we homeschooled in the morning. We ate lunch at the house. We made something. We ate. We laid down for a nap. I mean, when I tell you it was so, I laid down for 1 hour every single day. And they did not have to go to sleep, but they had a pallet in the living room floor, and I laid on the couch. They didn't have to go to sleep, but they had to lay there in silence. And if they woke me up, they were both getting in trouble because I took a nap and I set my alarm for an hour. So I would wake up and then they could watch TV because I watched a soap opera back in my younger years every day. And so I would turn on the TV in the living room, watch my soap opera, and they would go to Gavin or Bailey's room and watch TV or play or whatever they wanted to do for my 45 minutes while I watched my soap opera. And then they would come back in there and we would play. I would cook dinner or Slade would cook dinner, whatever happened. And then we would play a board game, whatever, watch a movie, whatever we did. But they were in the bed by 8 o'clock every single night. And I don't know what age they stopped having an 8 o'clock bedtime. Bailey's in here. I'm about to ask her, how old were you when you stopped having to go to bed at 8 o'clock? Like 11?
Can't hear you.
She can't hear me. Hold on. Bailey. Not hear me on here?
You're behind.
Oh.
You're 20 seconds behind on that.
Oh, how old were you when you stopped having an 8 o'clock bedtime? She said she was 14 or 15.
Golly. Oh, drill sergeant over here, 14 or 15.
Okay, it was after we moved here. So she was 13 or 12 when we moved here. 13. So she was about 14, okay? And then her bedtime didn't have to be 8 o'clock anymore. Yeah, I mean, I ran a tight ship. I didn't play that. Like, you go to bed, you get your sleep. We get up, we do the same thing every day. And my kids also have to get up by 7 o'clock every day.
Yeah, they're up at 7 o'clock every morning.
Still.
Whether they have something.
Gavin said it took a lot of begging. He just texted his sister for him not to have the 8 o'clock anymore. And her not to have the 8 o'clock.
Whether they're in school, out of school, Saturday, 7 o'clock. They're up.
I'm up. They're up. Because, and you guys, obviously, your kids, your rules. But I want you guys to know my why behind that. One day, an employer they're going to need my kids to come in at 7:30, 8 o'clock every morning. If I don't make that a habit now, they will be lazy in a lot of ways. I don't want that. So I'll give an example. My mom with us, we had to be up by 7 every day. Well, my brother came along. He's the baby. I'm 16 years older than him, and they didn't do that anymore. He could sleep till whenever he wanted to. Well, my brother still sleeps late, and he'll sleep till 11 o'clock in the afternoon. It drives Mom insane. Absolutely insane. Like, he comes home from college and he'll sleep forever. And she cannot stand it. It drives her crazy. But I'm like, well, Mama, you've never made him get up and do like you did us. She would literally come in there, and she was terrible waking you up. She'd turn the fan on, turn the light on, snatch the covers off, and say, "Rise and shine." And she'd walk out the door. And you better be up when she come back in there, or you were getting a spanking. She was going to beat you. Like, Mama didn't play that. There was a bunch of us kids in the house. You also have to remember that my brother came, my baby sister was 7 when he came along. The rest of us were about grown. So, I mean, she didn't have time to go in there and trying to be nice, waking all of us bad kids up.
Yeah.
She didn't, we were on a rotation in there. But anyway, so my brother, what I was saying, my brother's 21, and he still wants to sleep in, where the rest of us had to get up, and so the rest of us are up. My sister Jordan, I think she gets up at 4:00 in the morning or some crazy stuff. She's a morning person too. Ooh, I was not a morning person. Mom made me get up, but I was not a morning person. Now I am more. But anyway, that's beside the point. So I made the kids get up at 7. I still make them get up at 7. But now it's literally just in them. Like, even without an alarm, Bailey still wakes up most of the time because it's just part of what she does. And you only have so many hours in a day to get things done. And if they're sleeping half of that, well, like, what you do with your time is important.
Burning daylight.
Burning daylight. So that's why I do that. And that's why I've always done that. Even when they were little, I would make them get up. I didn't let them sleep. But, I did have them in the bed by 8 o'clock every night. So, but hey, that was for me. I needed that. I needed them in the bed at 8 o'clock so I could have an hour or two by myself.
Yeah.
So, don't feel bad for doing that. So, anyway, when you get to teen years, obviously, the way you discipline is different. Taking away a little TV time is probably not going to be very effective. Taking away that cell phone,
cut them deep,
making them stay at the house, not being able to do anything. It's going to work. I have a flip phone that I bought. Never had to turn it on, but I do have one. Both of my children know that I have one. And if they ever want to get sideways with me about that telephone, that's what they will have. And they'll have to flip phone it up to call me if they need me. I do not care. I'm serious. So, I didn't yell at them at all, really, when they were little. I mean, I would sometimes, but not nearly as much as I did once they made it to, yeah, girl, they'll be T9 wording it.
T9 word.
Yeah, but see, this phone, I'd only put some minutes on there. They wouldn't even be able to text. They wouldn't know what had hit them.
They couldn't send a T9 word text if their life depended on it.
No, neither of them even know how to do that, I'm sure. Gavin might, because he's watched some videos.
He might figure it out.
Yeah. Dana said not a flip phone. Yes. I ordered that. So Bailey got in trouble one time. Actually, it was about the phone. So I have this thing, like, you're not going to be on your phone at dinner. You're not going to be on your phone just doing stupid stuff. She wasn't doing anything bad, but like, if I feel like she was doing like
free minutes.
Yes. So waiting, like, if I feel like she's taking up too much time on the phone, I will get on to her. Well, I can't even remember what she did, but boy, I got mad and I ordered her a flip phone. That's why I have the flip phone, because I had told her, if you get in trouble again about that phone, I'm giving you a flip phone. So I went ahead and ordered it so I could have it ready. So she wasn't going to call my bluff. So it got here and I took it out the package and I said, and I even ordered it already.
Follow through.
You're right, Bailey. You have to be asleep by 8.
So they can't get free text at 9.
Nope. So once again, though, I was going to follow through with my punishment. So I went ahead. And spent my $25 on the flip phone to show her I wasn't kidding with her. Needless to say, it didn't get that far. She realized Mom ain't joking with me. I don't want to walk around college with a flip phone. Yes, she was in college. She was at Wallace. And I was going to send her to school with a flip phone. Hey, whatever works. So, anyway, those are examples of things I've done in my parenting.
Humiliation.
Hey, if it works. I made my kids wear a shirt for a whole day one time. Together. They were both inside of a shirt because they had been fighting all day. And I told them if they said one more cross word to each other, they were going to wear a shirt together. Well, they didn't believe me, and they continued. So one more word was said, and in their dad's shirt they went. A white T-shirt at that. And they loved that. You know, I mean, I've got some clever parenting tips if anybody wants them that I've... I mean, I don't know that all of them were great, but...
I made Bailey scrub the baseboards with a toothbrush.
The smallest toothbrush you could think of.
The smallest toothbrush.
A kid toothbrush.
Yeah. That was a good one.
That was a good one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we've done some pretty clever things in our parenting.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Both of our kids respect us. Like, I've never really had a whole lot of issue with, like, disrespect or anything like that. And Bailey. And, you know, so before we did this, sorry, y'all, I gotta move. Before we did this tonight, I had actually asked my kids a few questions, you know, just curious as to what they would say, really, about me and their dad. And so I've told y'all some of the things we've done in our parenting, and we probably sound like we're terrible. Gavin had a spoon with his name on it. Oh, it's right over there, actually. It's actually a wooden spatula, and it said Gavin Spankin' Spoon.
I wish I still had my flip phone.
Your granddaddy said he wishes he still had his flip phone. I got one if you need to borrow it.
And that another one bites the dust ringtone.
No, man. Anyway, so I asked our kids some questions, and just to show y'all, I mean, we were hard on them. We had expectations, real high expectations, I'll say. I put my, you know, the standard, if our standard is to be like Christ, well, then I'm holding them high. Because if Christ, as I'm Christ's child, and my standard is to be like him, well, they're my children, but technically they're his children. So that's their standard as well. And so right. I kept them to a really high standard, and they weren't going to get out of those lines without me snatching them back in. And when I say snatching them, if that's what it took, that's what I did. So I asked my kids, I said, whenever you describe me, if you were to describe me or your dad to someone who didn't know us, what are things you guys would say? So Gavin said, for me, he would say I was kind, selfless, always there, and fun. And for his dad, he said kind, selfless, always there, and chill. Bailey said, for me, caring, loving, selfless, strong, a great mom and wife. And then for her daddy, she said hardworking, loving, strong husband, great dad. So I'm going to sit right there for just a second, because if you noticed, my kids they were not together. Bailey was at work, and Jitterbug. Bailey was at work, and Gavin was here at the house. So they weren't together. Neither of them knew what the other one said. and they still used about the same thing. So Gavin and Bailey both said I was selfless. Um and that's a character trait. Like they see that in me. So that spoke to me like that's something that my kids see in me. So all of those other things that I was like, gosh, they might be like, mom's mean. They didn't say any of those things. And they could have, because we have a very open relationship in this house. And if they think that I'm being some kind of way, they will tell me, especially my son. He'll be the first one to be like, you're acting crazy. He has no filter about that sort of thing. And I'm glad. And I'll be like, maybe I am. But, and then for their dad, Bailey said hardworking, loving, strong, or a strong husband, great dad. And Gavin said kind, selfless, always there, chill. But they all kind of tie together, and that's who he is as a person.
Look at Daddy. What is a jitterbug?
Oh my gosh. It's a phone that has these big buttons on it.
It's a phone for old people, Dad.
Bless. So, those are the things they would use to describe me. Not she's mean, she's hard on us. Like, they're grown now. I mean, they don't get in a whole lot of trouble anymore. Like, it's not a constant thing anymore. And these are the things they say. And I think that says a lot about the relationship you build. Like Life Alert. Yeah, Cheyenne. And I asked several other questions. I asked them, what's something you learned from me? And Gavin said selflessness. Bailey said how to be a better communicator. So Gavin literally went right back to what he would tell people. I don't need that. What he would tell people that I am is what he's learned from me. Yeah. So by me being selfless, he's learned that behavior. And, I think that's huge. And by me communicating with Bailey, she learned how to communicate. And for their father, Gavin said how to stay more calm, and Bailey said the importance of communication. And that's because, her dad's always like, he didn't know how to communicate well. So he wants her to communicate well. It's never been an option that she could just shut down and not talk. No, you're going to talk about it.
The best answer out of all the questions. Where's it at?
Mm-hmm.
Just Gavin. Yeah. It was what's something I always say. So Gavin said this about me. When your mom is getting on to you, just say yes, ma'am. Just say yes, ma'am. There's no need to argue about it. There's no need to fuss about it. Just say yes, ma'am, and move on. Because the more you argue, the worse it's going to get.
That is correct.
And so she'll be fussing at him. She'll walk out, and I'll look at him and be like, dude, just say yes, ma'am, and be done. But nothing. Just say yes, ma'am. I understand. I get it. And that'll it's over. It's over.
And I'll say he does not butt me if he's in trouble.
No.
It's about stupid stuff.
It's about just ridiculous things.
The other day I was looking for his poster board, okay, that he had shoved in the dining room closet, apparently. We never found the poster board, but he says he shoved it in there. And not that poster board, another poster board. Bailey's over here pointing to poster board. So he says that he shoved it in that closet. Well, I said, well, why would you shove it in the closet? It's gonna be bent up now. Well, instead of just saying, and then I said something along the lines of, it's not in here. Yes, it is in there. No, it's not in there. Well, anyway, we're going back and forth. Well, that's the night his dad told him, just say, yes, ma'am.
For the 500th
Okay.
time in his life. I mean, it's
Yes.
not the first time that's ever been said to him.
Right. But I was giving an example.
Yeah. That same night, I gave him some very good sound advice. And no man on here is going to openly acknowledge this, but I'll put it out there for us, okay? Because I told her also.
Mm-hmm.
Me, Gavin, and I were trying to watch wrestling. We were trying to watch Monday Night Raw.
Mm-hmm.
And about the time it started, she wanted him to find that poster board.
Because he had a project due
Because
at
he
school.
had a project. I'm not discounting what happened, what needed to happen.
I'm saying that's why.
Yeah. And so he's like frustrated because he's having to go look for the poster board, and he knows he wants to watch wrestling. And so this whole ordeal goes down, and he comes back in there. She leaves to go get poster board. And I said, well, I'm not watching wrestling now until she gets back, till everything's settled with this poster board deal. He's like, I don't want to watch it now either till, I said, your mom did not intentionally try to ruin your time of watching wrestling. I said, but she knew when you got up and walked off that you would rather be doing something else than looking for that poster board. I said, so what you should have done is made that poster board the most important thing in the world to you at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And until that poster board was found, there wasn't going to be any wrestling watched, and nothing else mattered but that poster board. I said, the moment you showed her that wrestling was more important than that poster board is the moment everything went south.
Yes.
And that is exactly what happened. And guys, I know y'all don't want to look. You ain't got to confirm or deny. Just blink twice if it's true. If there is something that you want to be doing, and your wife asks you to do something else, you better do it quickly. Do it with a smile, or else that thing that you wanted to be doing is now going to be miserable, and there's going to be no enjoyment in it. I don't know what that is. And I told Gavin, I said, I don't know what that is. I don't think it's intentional.
No.
It's just one of
It's a
those
woman thing.
That's what I told him. I didn't want to just go out and say, I said,
No,
I don't
it
know.
is.
It's something about women that they just want to know that what they're asking you to do is more important than what you really want to be doing.
Yes.
Right now. I said, when you give them that, hey, this is really important. It goes a whole lot smoother.
Yeah.
A whole lot smoother. And I told him, I said, if you would have just got up with a smile and been like, man, I don't know where that poster board's at. That's crazy, blah, blah, blah. We could have been sitting here watching wrestling now.
Yeah.
I said, but now, no. And it literally turned into like 3 hours later that we got to watch wrestling. It wasn't even on live anymore. We had to, I was not happy with Gavin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
So
don't
guys,
believe that situation would happen again.
So guys, just say yes, ma'am.
Yes. But he said that was the most important thing.
It was.
I disagree with that. I think because of the point of this episode, I think the most important thing that came from what I asked them was, I asked, what's the most impactful thing I've ever done for or with you? And Gavin said, homeschool, staying home. That was the most important thing that was answered, because There was times I didn't think that's what I should be doing. And any stay-at-home mother understands what I'm talking about. It's hard. It's the most rewarding job, but it's the most tiring job you will ever do. And for my 16-year-old child to look at me now, who's almost a grown man, and say, that was the most impactful thing I did in his life, that spoke volumes. And my daughter said that I raised her and treated her as she was my own, and I adopted her. Well, that would never not have happened because she is mine. It, I don't care what DNA says, she's mine. And when I started staying home, I started staying home for her. I didn't cover that at the beginning of this because I knew I was going to touch at it at this moment. She was struggling in school when she was in second grade. And because her teacher, so her first grade teacher was out all year because she had had a baby. And so they had substitutes in and out. And I did not realize that she was not learning phonics at school because those are not things that they would send home. She could read, but it was memorization. She was reading the book before she got home. And so when she was reading the book that she brought home from school, she knew the words. Well, then she got to second grade and she had to start doing a little more in depth. Second grade, and she had to do a little more in depth reading. And we realized she was having a problem because she didn't know her phonics. So that is why I started staying home, was to homeschool her. And Gavin was going into kindergarten, so I decided I would homeschool him as well. Had she not been having issues in public school, I don't know that I would have still homeschooled them. You know, I had several things, I was going to send them to private school is what, my goal was. I was just going to, because Gavin had already been to Emmanuel for a little while. And anyway, I was going to send both of them to private school, but I felt like she needed me. And so that's what I did. But I say that to say she was mine. Before I didn't legally adopt her until she was 12 or 13 years old. 13, because it was 5 years last year and she was 18, so it'll be 6 years this year. Yeah, I didn't legally adopt her until she was 13 years old. So the decision I made when she was 7 had no, me being her mother on paper had no bearing on what my decision was. She was mine always. And I think that for anyone that has a child possibly on here that's not your biological child, never make them feel that way. And there are times I probably treat her better than I treat her brother. And that's because of the fact of I never wanted her to ever feel like she was less than or she wasn't included. And it was the most important thing in my parenting was to make sure she knew that I loved her no matter what. And so, and what they said about their dad was Gavin said working so mother could stay home. And Bailey said to her dad, being the biological parent that stayed and working so hard so that I could do the things that I wanted to do. So I wanted to say that because dads, if you're out there and you're working long hours or whatever, it's all in how it's handled inside the house and what you do once you walk through that door of how that affects their life. You have two options. You can work long hours and not come home, or you can work long hours and come home at a decent hour and eat dinner with your kids a few times a week. It might not can happen every day. I get it. Sometimes things happen. There's times he walks in the door at 9:30 at night in the summer. But at least a couple of nights a week, he's going to sit down, he's going to eat with his kids. He's going to call them to see what's going on if he feels like he hadn't talked to them for some reason. Because Bailey does go to bed at 8 o'clock still. She chooses that now. But he keeps a relationship with them. And they know Dad didn't work because that's where Dad wanted to be. Dad worked so that Mom could be here and we could do all of the things we wanted to be able to do. And that's the most important thing. They never felt second to his job because he made sure they didn't feel that way. And
That's right.
I made sure they didn't feel that way. I was not at the house. Bailey says she's a grandma now. I was not at the house saying things like, well, your dad's just at work because that's where he wants to be. Dad's never home. Here we are eating dinner by ourselves again. Like, I never said those things. I was always like, I'm so sorry, kids. You know, dad got called out tonight. He'll be home in just a little bit. He hates that he had to do this. Like, I always made sure they knew Dad loves y'all. Dad is sorry. I promise you he would rather be here than dealing with whatever situation he has to deal with. Because usually if it's 9 o'clock at night, there's water running through someone's ceiling. And he's dealing with it. So it's all in, as Terry said, it's in the relationship. I agree. Kyle said he was homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
He turned out greatish. I agree, Kyle. You turned out good. And so, you know, it's all in the relationship. All of these things go back to relationship. Bailey and I were working a wedding this past Saturday, and the girl looked at me and said, how do you and her still have such a great relationship? Because Bailey was saying, you know, I do everything with my mom or whatever she was talking about. And I said, it's because I always allowed her to be open with me. She could tell me anything, even if I didn't like it. She could tell me. And I was going to love her where she was, but I was also going to give her the tools to get past it. And as I told the girl, I said, and she knows Christ. I said, both of my kids know Christ. And that is the number one reason why they are who they are. And the last thing I have before Slade has what he has is first is what your kids will say about you. Luckily, they don't hold on to all of your mistakes. You might think they will say bad things, but it won't be. Like I asked my kids, I asked them, you know, how is there anything you would change about our parenting? And it's like stupid little stuff, nothing big, nothing relationship changing. It's little stuff. And like they don't hold on to all of the bad things. Like when you think you're doing a terrible job, they're not holding on to that. What they will do, they respect the relationship if you're willing to put in the work. And, you know, Maya Angelou says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's true with your kids. So remember, our words matter. How we talk to them, what we say to them, you know, we can either lift them up or tear them down. And they will remember those things. And that's what I have.
I really don't have much of anything.
And if y'all have any questions, drop them in the chat while he's talking. and we'll
Yeah.
answer them at the end. Like any questions about parenting or how we did something, please just
I
drop it in
don't
the
have
chat.
anything earth shattering. Hard to believe, I know. But we were just at Disney World and Universal Studios for 3 days, and yeah, like, get your kids. Get your kid. Like, my gosh. The I don't believe in just inherently bad children,
Mm-mm. I
but
don't
there
either.
are some bad parents,
Mm-hmm.
and my goodness, these kids just run roughshod
Mm-hmm.
over bad parents.
And we started taking our kids to Disney every year at 5 and 7.
Yeah, they were
Let me just
little.
say that. So they weren't just grown.
They were little kids. I mean, you got kids in line crawling on the ground in front of you,
Outside.
and
And he's like 8.
oh yeah, he's old enough to know better. And dad or mom would be like, "Get up."
Nothing.
Nothing. He's just still crawling on the ground. And then they don't say anything else. And he's just get your kid. Get your kid. Like he's what are you doing right now? Or hanging on the little chains that they have dividing the line, sitting on them. Like, and they'd be like, "Don't do that." Okay. And then they're right back up there. And they don't do anything about it. And it goes back to everything she just said. It is a consistency and it is a follow through that is lacking tremendously. And it's not because I think it's they are so distracted, the parents,
Yes.
because of all the kids that you saw that were misbehaving and the parents were letting it go. You could look directly at the parent and they were just like this. And their kid is just terrorizing everyone around them. And they are in their phone. Johnny, don't do that, Johnny. And then they're right back in the phone. Like, what's going on? What are we doing right now? I my my parents would have never. I don't so our kids, they didn't get 3 strikes.
No.
Like that was
Delayed.
delayed obedience is disobedience. Like my mom would count to 3, right? But we didn't give 3 strikes. Like, okay, that's your first strike, that's your second strike, that's your third strike. Okay, when we told you that was your warning. That was the warning shot. If it happened again, consequences were coming. There was no
Mm-hmm.
don't make me have to tell you again. No, I've already told you, and now this is going to be the consequence. And they knew that.
Which is why I did the thing where they had to look at me, they had to repeat it back. So there was no way they could say, "Well, Mom, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you the first time or the second time or the 5th time." No. I know you heard me. You repeated it to me. So that's why we used that tactic.
Yeah, and what you allow is what will continue. You can't allow your children to dictate. So here's my question. Um, who runs your house?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you run the house or do your children run the house? Who dictates how the trip to the grocery store is going to go? Do you dictate how the trip is going to go or does your children dictate how the trip is going to go?
Right.
Because if your child is dictating all of these things, they're going to continue throughout their life from that toddler stage to that childhood stage to that preteen, teenager, all the way into adulthood, thinking that they can control the situation with their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a poor way to raise children, a poor way. And all it takes is some discipline on your part, mom and dad. You have to be disciplined enough to be consistent in doling out punishment. You can't be on fire one day and I don't care what you do the next day.
Yeah.
The expectation in public
Was much stricter
was
than
much
home.
stricter than home. Don't embarrass me. Exactly.
Yes. And I will say at home though, you have to have and I know what you're saying, Terry, but at home you have to have expectations because what happens is so my dad, we all know, owns a restaurant. I used to see some terrible children come in. I can assure you let me back up and say there was 6 of us. Um, 4 of us lived in the house regularly, because my brother wasn't born yet, and my oldest sister lived with my mother. But there was 4 of us in the house regularly. I can remember my dad taking us to like 5-star restaurants, all 4 of us children, and we're like doorsteps. We're all 3 years apart. So I can remember, like literally remember me being like 11 years old, 10 years old, and him taking all of us. So, I mean, we were like one, and they never had to like get on to us. We knew how to sit there and be quiet. And I think that says a lot. Um, and same thing with but it was at the house. Like, we had a playroom when we were growing up because there was so many of us, okay? She had to put us somewhere. Anyway, so we could only make a mess in the playroom. We didn't bring our toys out in the living room. Like, we had all these rules. You only ate in the kitchen. Like, we had a lot of rules growing up. And we ate at the table as a family every night. And you sat there. You didn't pick your teeth at the table. You sat like you were supposed to. You cut your meat like you were supposed to. Like, you sat at the table like you would if you went to dinner. Every night we did this. But it taught us how to be in public. And my grandmother was a stickler. Um, if Slade knew her, but I don't. Most of you guys on here didn't know her. A few of you did, but she did not play. You're gonna put that napkin in your lap. You knew which fork to use. You knew all the things. She sent me to cotillion and party manners class 3 years in a row because she said I needed more than my older sister because my older sister apparently got it the first time and she had to keep sending me. Only because the first year I spun on stage and I showed everybody my underwear. I didn't know how to act right, but anyway. But so they made sure at home though we were like, you do these things in public because if we got in public and we didn't, we were going to get in some serious trouble.
Yeah, and I think that's what
Yeah, I think that's what Terry was trying to say. Yeah,
the expectation at home is real high.
Yeah.
Expectation in public is just a little bit above that because look, you might try to embarrass me in public, but you're going to be the one with the feelings hurt.
Yes.
By the time we get finished. And, I can remember my mom wear me out in the Kmart parking lot.
I got wore out in Kmart with a flip flop.
Oh, I'm sure I did too when I was, a little guy. But I can remember going through the parking lot, just one hand stretched up in the air and the other hand.
You said you only got 2 spankings.
Like
big spankings.
Yeah.
As you're older.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I just don't see that anymore. Not to mention somebody probably would have called CPS on her if that would have happened today. Not saying she like beat me. I deserved.
But that's just the way people are now.
But there has to be something that you can do to get your child to listen to you in public, and it starts at home.
Absolutely.
It's the word. This word is starting to come up a lot for me in different situations. It's laziness. It's lazy. You are such a lazy mom or dad that you just don't care what they do at home. And so then when you get in public, you don't know how to correct it because you've allowed it at home. You got to reel them in. You
Yeah.
get your kids. Get your kids.
You know, there is nothing I hate worse than to go to dinner, especially when my kids were little. To go to dinner without my kids, I have had to get a babysitter just so I could get out of the house without children. And now I get in here and your kid is running around the restaurant and screaming. It makes me want to get up and parent your child. And I would get kicked out of an establishment if I did that, probably, because me and the parent would be fighting. I can't stand it. Don't make me have to parent your kid. You parent them. Now, just because you parent your kids does not mean they're going to listen every single time. They won't. They'll try you. They're children.
They're
But
going to see how far
they can push you.
they can take it. I mean, that's just human nature. How far can I go before there's consequences?
Yes.
Oh, they're going to have to find out.
I have a niece, and she listens to this. Her and Bailey are the same age. And I used to keep her a lot when she was little. And she likes to tell stories about how Aunt Tab beat her. But yeah, I would. She was a little more trying than my kids, and it was not because her mother was not disciplining her. She was just a little more. She was a harder kid, and but her mom took care of that. And I'll say this: she knew how to act in public. Like, she was very well mannered in public. She wouldn't really try you unless you were at home, and she would just do stupid stuff. Like, she wasn't bad. Like, she wasn't ever disrespectful or anything like that. She was just she was a mess.
See what she can get away with.
Yeah. And so, and obviously she was at Aunt Tab's house. She wasn't with her mama, so she wanted to see if she could push me. Well, she says Aunt Tab was worse than her mama was. She realized real fast I wasn't the one. But, uh, that's the thing. She wanted to see how far she could take it, and she realized real fast I wasn't going to put up with it. So, she decided she'd just do what she was supposed to.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Your kids should not be a nuisance to everyone around you in public.
Yes. I agree.
That's, I don't know, maybe that's a little harsh. But like, she was using the restaurant for an example. Like, I'm paying to come here, have a nice meal, enjoy, my time, my company. I did not come here to listen to your child scream and holler and run around and you not do anything about it. Look, if you're trying
That's
and
right.
and you're like doing things to make them stop, you're I'm all for you. You go, mom, you go, dad.
Yes.
But when you're doing nothing,
Yes.
when
Or
you're
you're antagonizing them?
you're not even acknowledging that they're over here at this guy's table taking a French fry off of his plate, I have a problem with that. And that is lack of attentiveness. That is laziness. That is just all around. That's pitiful. Pitiful. And to act like it doesn't happen would be naive of any of us that have been anywhere in the last 5 years.
I went to Target one time. There was a kid pitching a fit in the floor, and his mother was recording it and laughing with her cell phone.
Yeah, I mean, that's encouraging. That's going to stop it. Like, what are we doing? She's trying to get famous on TikTok, and her kids.
It was nuts. I had to walk away. I was going to go to Starbucks and get a coffee because I was there without my kids. And I just walked away. I couldn't even go get the coffee because I wanted to snatch her and the kid and be like, if you can't parent the kid, I can. But why are you antagonizing this child instead of doing something about the fact that they're kicking and screaming in the middle of the floor and they're 7 years old probably.
And the thing is, nobody else wants to parent your child. We
No
want you
one.
to do it. We want you to parent your child. I don't want to have to parent your child. She doesn't want to have to do it. You don't want to have to parent anyone else's child. I have 2 of my own, and if I wanted to parent another one, we would have had 3. I don't want to parent your kid. I want you to parent your kid.
And I get sometimes as parents, we're caught up maybe talking to someone and our kid just sneaks off just in time and they go do something because they knew we weren't watching them and someone might have to get on to them. I understand that completely. But majority of the time, yes.
Yeah.
No one wants to parent your kid.
Nobody.
But I will say this, if your kid's around me long enough, they will get parented. And I don't care who they belong to, and it's not anything against you or your children, and I'm not trying to be any kind of way, I promise. It's literal second nature to me. Like it's an immediate, like I'll snap my fingers, clap my hands, like I'm getting your attention, kid.
People that work in children's church, people that are school teachers, they are the real MVPs
Absolutely.
because they are having to handle children that are not being parented at home. And I commend you. I applaud you. The ones that are on here that I can see, Terry, Dana, Cheyenne. Listen, you won't hear any complaints from me about how somebody's running children's church or how somebody's handling children at school. You couldn't pay me enough. Like I'm serious. You could not pay me enough to go be a school teacher nowadays or run children's church. I mean, the Lord would have to send me.
Absolutely.
I hear you, Miss Dana.
We have good kids at church. For the most part,
For the most
we
part,
do.
we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all good.
They're all good kids.
I think any kid can be a handful. I think all the ones we have now are.
Yeah, we got a good little crop there at church.
Yeah.
But you know why? You know why? Because there's good parents.
I agree.
Because their parents are doing what they're supposed to do.
You know, and I want to say this to Cheyenne. I see you and you're doing a good job. Like, I see her constantly saying, you know, like if they get a little bit out of line, she is constantly trying to correct them and teach them what they should be doing. And it's hard when they're that close in age. Trust me, I know. April understands that too. Her boys are a year apart. So I promise you, we understand.
And you may even go ahead.
And I am so proud of you. And I have seen you grow as a mom so much in the past year. And I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, you may even feel like you're being you're constantly on them and constantly correcting them. That's okay.
Yes.
Because like she said earlier, out of all the things that our children remember about their childhood, it's not that they were constantly being corrected and they were constantly being told, you know, how to do something.
Because one day you're not having to constantly do it anymore.
Yeah.
Like one day it's like it clicks with them and it's a lot less that you have to do it. In the beginning, it is a lot. It's every single moment of every single day. But it's like one day it just like light bulb.
We don't have to be taught bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
No, you know, I've said this before. No one taught me how to be selfish. I was born that way. No one teaches us bad behavior. Our behavior just isn't corrected. And so it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. But when when you start correcting your children, you got to be consistent and you got to stay on them. And if you don't stay on them, then they go back, they default to factory settings.
Yeah. I agree. 100%. Um, and my kids until this day, they're both, they're older now, but they both still know there's a line. And I still have that line with my mom. I know she listens to these sometimes, and uh, you know, I say with every kid she got a little more laid back. Well, I was the oldest in the house, and it was she was not laid back at all, and I needed it. Um, Out of all of the ones, me and I have another sister, Whitney. We probably needed it the most, and she was hard on me, and I needed that. I needed the structure, and let me tell you, that woman would beat me with anything she could find. It was not abuse, but she light me up, and it's not. And those are not. But I don't look at her now and think those were bad things. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we hear it often said in and around the church. This is what we hear: spare the rod. What?
Spoiled the child.
Okay, that's not what the Bible says. That's what I always heard too. The Bible says whoever spares the rod hates their children.
Mm.
But the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them. None of us would say that we hate
Right.
our children.
No.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
But our discipline shows how much we love them.
That's good.
If there is no discipline, then you don't love them. The Bible says you hate them. Why? Why would it say that? Because you're setting them up for failure. You're setting them up for disaster. You're setting them up for a lifetime of hardship and trouble because they're not going to know how to respond to discipline. They're not going to
Yeah.
know how to respond to correction. And do not spare the rod. And I don't necessarily they don't have to be a belt.
Right.
Just discipline. Discipline your children.
Whatever works for your kids.
Yeah, whatever it is for your kid. Right? Like it can be the side eye to Bailey.
She's looking at him right now.
But whatever it is, you know your child, you know what, and if you can't figure it out, you got to keep trying stuff. You got to try the next thing, and try the next thing, and try the next thing. You got to make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. You'll find something.
Oh yeah, something will get them in line. I can assure you, something will get them in check. Whether it's you taking Minecraft from them, YouTube, the tablet, the phone, I don't even know what kids do
Whatever.
anymore. My kids are too old to do kitty things anymore. I don't even know what
Barbies. I mean,
Barbies,
all
yeah.
the things.
Yeah. And
Legos.
yeah, Legos, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But yeah, find that thing. Find what makes them tick
Yeah.
and shut it off.
Don't forget to like the stream. Share
it.
the stream.
Share it.
I hope that we didn't keep you guys too long. Sorry it was a little long-winded, but Roblox, yes, Dana. But kids are a long topic because you have a lot of years of raising them. A lot of them. So
Never stop.
Never stop.
Never stop raising your children.
You still call your parents even once you're grown.
Yeah.
And but that's what you want. You want your kids to have a relationship to where they do.
Mm-hmm.
So, good night. I love y'all.
Love you guys.
Hope y'all learned something. Hope we weren't too harsh.
Happy Good Friday tomorrow to
Yes.
everyone. Happy Easter this Sunday. If you don't have a home church, come see us at Living Water Church in Headland, Alabama. If you do have a home church, be sure that you are there this Sunday and take somebody with you. Love you guys.
Yes. Love you guys. Bye.